So hello everyone. Hope you're feeling energized after. We're nearly over. We're nearly over. But we're here. We're meeting here to talk about an event on promoting water resilient food systems for climate action. And I warn you, we have a lot of speakers, so a lot of insights, and I hope you will find it interesting. So good afternoon, everyone. Boa tarde, and welcome to the Water for Climate Pavilion. My name is Chiara Cristina Colombo. I am a Policy and Engagement Advisor at IMI, International Water Management Institute, CGIAR Center, and it is my pleasure to moderate and guide you throughout this event today. I wanted to start off with setting the scene so that I don't speak that much because I was feeling tired after days at COP. I will start with a video that truly sets the scene and shares some of the main figures and why, and also a little bit outlines why we should talk more about how we align water and food systems. That was faster than me talking. I always use it. So just a last remark. So to put it simply, we cannot solve the food system challenges without addressing water, and we cannot build water resilience without transforming food systems. And this was also one of the first remarks and recommendations from the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, was truly transforming the food systems globally. Today's event is co-organized by FAO and IMI, and brings together, and what we want also to do is to bring together civil society, leaders from government, research, farmer organizations. I think is it working? Yeah. Farmer organizations, and bring them in a space that is an aquatic space, so more of a, I feel like it's, no? You can hear it, okay. Thanks so much, George. Thank you for being here, and we will begin. the discussions. It is my pleasure, this event, as I said, is co-organized by IMI and FAO, and it is my pleasure to introduce a video message from Mr. Lifeng Li, Director of the Land and Water Division at FAO, and he will share FAO's perspective on the urgency of aligning water and food systems for climate action. And we can play the video now. Thanks.
Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, it is a pleasure for me to address you with this video message and joining this crucial COP30 session. The topic of water-resilient food systems is dear to my heart. You might wonder why this topic is important to FAO. Recent FAO analysis show that around 2.5 billion people live in agricultural areas with water stress. That includes more than 1 billion people live in regions facing frequent drought. The changing and warmer climate will only intensify water scarcity and uncertainty, affecting not just agricultural yields, but also human health, nutrition, migration, and regional peace. So water is not only an environmental or technical challenge, it is a political, economic, and human challenge, one that cuts across the entire 2030 agenda and it demands actions far beyond the water sector alone. Globally, agriculture is responsible for over 72% of all freshwater withdrawals, making it the biggest water use sector. Agriculture is impacted by climate change and limited water availability, but also provides solutions to climate change. The way we manage water use for agriculture has an immense impact on water security and climate actions. When we're looking at population growth and other future trends, such as urbanization, global demands of water is projected to increase by 24% by 2050 compared to 2012 levels. Meeting this increased demand while pursuing sustainable practices and minimizing adverse environmental impacts is a significant challenge. Therefore, at FAO, we believe water must be treated as a strategic entry point for agri-food systems transformation. This is why the topic of water has been selected to be the biennial theme of 2024-2025 by the last FAO conference, the organization's highest decision-making body. For FAO, it is clear that we have to look at the important linkages of water, climate, and agriculture, and the mutual impacts of one on each other, in order to tackling the multiple water crises and achieving water and food security for all. FAO supports countries at local and national levels to mainstream water into climate-related policies and climate actions. This is done, for example, through the National Water Roadmaps initiative carried out in over 10 countries and with more countries to join in the coming years. But we do not only work with countries at a national level. We also promote impactful partnerships that lead the way for joint climate action. One example is the Partnership on Water-Resilient Food Systems launched at COP28. This partnership is a crucial instrument for increasing the attention towards the importance of handling agriculture and water resilience together and streamlining them in national policies, plans, and commitments, such as nationally determined contributions, national adaptation plans, national food security pathways, and national water strategies. For FAO, it is clear that we have to enhance cross-sectoral cooperation, moving away from looking at water from a sectoral or silo lines towards a more holistic view, applying integrated approaches. We stand ready to speed up action, scale up projects, and enhance collaboration to promote water-resilient agri-food systems globally. Integrated approaches to promote synergies between water and food benefit not only agriculture, but can accelerate climate action across sectors. Sustainable water solutions to agriculture are also solutions to climate. I would like to invite all of you to join the Water Resilient Food System Partnership to reinforce our actions and increase concrete actions on transforming the world's food systems to be more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable. I wish you a great event and fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lifeng. And he was not here. We could hear the power of the water cycle here. So Lifeng is also referring to a partnership that was launched at COP28, and where partners are truly working to recognize the strong link between water systems and food systems. And so we're also trying to see how we can also support parties and have something that has a longer term impact to in a way truly acknowledge those synergies. And now I'm delighted to welcome our keynote speaker, Ms. Karen Ross. She's the Secretary for Climate and Working Lands at the California Department for Food and Agriculture. Ms. Karen Ross brings decades of national and international leadership in agricultural policy, climate change adaptation, and environmental stewardship. She's a champion of farmer-centered innovation, sustainable water and land management, and stronger connections between consumers and the people who grow their food. And this is also why we're really happy to have you. Secretary Ross, the floor is yours.
Hello, and oh, I guess you can hear me just like that thunderclap. That made me almost fall out of my chair, right? So I'm very honored to be here, so thank you for the invitation. And I'm really so happy, so pleased with the director's comments about why we're here. So I don't need to state the stage for why we're here. But I do want to present California as an interesting case study of what we've learned from how we have brought water to the land and what we know we have to adapt to, change, and make significant investments in to be able to sustain the type of economy that we have, but also with more regard to species and environment, which we've learned a lot about the impacts of the system that we do have, and very importantly, to ensure that we have safe, available drinking water for all citizens. So I'm going to touch on us as kind of a case study of some things we've learned from the past, but also the ways that we're working together and how we're structured in a way that will make some of the things going forward more challenging. So there is no doubt that water is life and water is food, but water is also species and builds communities. So the importance is well stated. More than 60 years ago, we recognized that we had a water system that depended on snowpack that would slowly melt into huge reservoirs and then use a 1,600-mile conveyance system to deliver it to communities. 25 million residents, or almost half of the residents of California, live in the southern part of the state that did not have available water. They've doubled their population in that region of the state, and they're using the same amount of water that they did 60 years ago because of water conservation. We also were able to bring much more land in the Central Valley into production because we could do irrigation. And our irrigation technology has changed considerably. In the last 25 years, we have reduced the amount of applied water in agriculture by 14%, but we've doubled our productivity because of more precise application of water, primarily through drip irrigation and micro drip irrigation, which has also dramatically improved our nitrogen fertilizer techniques so that we have less runoff and less nitrate impacts to our groundwater. These were significant technology advancements, and we continue to do that. What we are realizing with our hotter, drier future strategy is that with hotter temperatures, we will have 10% less available water in the next decade than we do today. And that also means we have a drier soil profile in our forest and meadows in the upper watersheds, which means less available water running into our reservoirs and canal system. So really thinking about that and better planning according to that has required some innovations for us, but they may not be innovations for others. One was recognizing with extreme weather events, we've gone from extreme droughts and historic droughts that are broken by the wettest years on record, which means flooding. So our Department of Water Resources has had to better integrate dam safety and dam operations with concurrent planning for drought so that we can better release water in a more timely way from our reservoirs and prevent flooding. And one of the strategies that we've incorporated to prevent flooding is on-farm recharge, deliberately flooding orchards and vineyards to get that groundwater recharge to improve the sustainability of our aquifers. Because one of the things we've done over time with growth in agriculture is bring more acreage into production, and we have become overly reliant on our groundwater basins. Not everyone has the same asset that I consider our groundwater basins to be. I feel like I should just get up here, but I know it would be hard for that. Our groundwater basins have the capacity to hold 100 times more water than our above ground storage facilities can. So understanding that brought us to the implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So we may lose up to 1 million acres of farmland because of implementation of the Groundwater Management Act. This brings me to the governance of water in California, and I don't know how it compares to others, but we have a federal water system that delivers a big part of our water to the state. We have a state water system, and trying to make those work together. We also have the vast majority of infrastructure that is being built and financed in the state is done at local irrigation districts by local governments. So there are many, many agencies involved within their own region, and the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act actually brought people together to have to think about the whole basin and not just a particular irrigation district or a city or a county. These are the types of governance challenges that we're running into, and we're anxious to learn from others how to do that. But I will say that financing is very important for regional resiliency, but we still have significant issues and obligations to the state of California, to our species, and to our communities that are reliant on surface water deliveries from our state water system to make sure that we're making that state investment as well. So what we have identified for us as our water strategies going forward in a more integrated way is, number one, we have to make sure that we continue to invest in storage and more available storage, which is a combination of more regional scale storage projects, and to really understand and improve our opportunities to recharge our groundwater basins. So we have that as our bank account in future droughts. And we're making significant progress on that, but we need to make a lot more on that. We know that we need to diversify our water sources by doing all the technologies that are available today and will be available tomorrow because of science and technology, with how do we clean up some of our impacted groundwater basins, and do we have the conveyance systems to bring that up at the right times to do that. So really understanding brackish water opportunities in agriculture where it may not be needed. We don't have to do tertiary treatment for drinking water quality, but it will be good quality water and wet water for crops and other industrial uses in economic development. Being able to capture stormwater, and in capturing that, understanding that that will be one way of preventing floods and getting it onto the land or into water banks, and that requires better forecasting and better understanding of our underground water basins. I will say that we've learned a lot from the country of Denmark, which I didn't realize would have the technology to do the flying types of technology to actually help us better understand underground water movement, which was something we really did not have the true data for and the information for, so we could do better planning. We also know that there will be more, oh my God, Virginia, I'm blanking on desalinization on a massive scale. Obviously, desalinization, when we have a 700-mile coastline, is something that people go, why aren't you doing that? We have to understand the capital investment for that. is significant, and you need a ratepayer base to do that. But siting and pre-identifying the best locations for desal is something that we're actively doing today. And the one thing that we've learned from the past that we cannot stop in is there's always opportunity for conservation, both in our city landscapes with how we do landscaping, that we have turf that may not be functional, it's just for looks. How do we really have more suitable for the climate that we have in that? And how do we continue with technology and working with farmers on their practices to improve conservation in agriculture so that we can achieve what we need to do. The last and most important piece of what we're doing that we haven't done in the past and we're paying the price for today is landscape management and restoration of our lands. What are we doing for the fish? What are we doing for the wildlife? And doing that type of restoration on the land, including taking our existing engineered system and using things like fish screens to make sure that we're not losing the fish species that matter so much to our tribes and others, and that we're investing significantly in safe and affordable drinking water systems in our rural communities to make sure that people, species, the environment, and our economy can work together to be able to deliver the results that we need for sustainable food production. And for us, we cannot talk about climate without talking about water. We can't talk about water without talking about climate. So really understanding the nexus that the director talked about is absolutely fundamental to the future. Thank you. I'm sorry it was...
Thank you so much. And if I can summarize in 3 sentences, we need to understand the challenges, work together, and plan better. And I'm also specifically happy that you mentioned Denmark, because I'm half Danish, so amazing. So we now move to our first panel, which will be focusing on cross-sectoral perspectives to strengthen water-food linkages for climate-resilient food systems. I would call the speakers to come on stage. So please come on stage. So we have Jorge Werneck, researcher at Embrapa, Diane Sibanda, I think she's here. Diane, very happy to see you, Diane. Jahan Choudhury from IFAD, and Caroline Chelsea Mainama, you're also here, amazing. So I will start by oh yeah, we have another speaker. I told you we have a lot of speakers. So I will kindly ask you also to intervene around 5 minutes if possible. We also know that there is no other event after us, so we don't have, a strict, we're very strict on time, but still, you will need to leave, so yeah. So I would like to welcome you all and start by Jorge Werneck from Embrapa. You specifically work at the intersection of water management and agricultural innovation in Brazil. Where do you see the biggest gaps or sectoral silos between water, agriculture, and climate? And if you can share a concrete example, and I know you will show us some slides, a concrete example from Brazil of initiatives that are improving the water resilience within food systems. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chiara. Thank you, Nathalie, Lifeng, Ivan. For this space to talk about water in this meeting, this COP30, I'm very happy to treat about the most important resource we have in the world, water. Okay, I will start here. So I will talk very quickly about this project, the Water Producer Project that we have here in Brazil, that shows a little bit, that showcases a little bit this kind of interaction about among sectors and among different people, not only people that works with water, but people that wants to solve water problems in conflict basins here in Brazil. So this is a book that you can find in the internet, and here we have basins in Federal District where we have water used for irrigation, but also for water supplying. And we are talking in an area that we have only a source of water, very small basins, so the rivers are still so small, with 3 million people and with more than 30,000 hectares under irrigation, using center pivots in green and for horticulture, smaller areas in red. Okay, this is the arrangement. This is what is beautiful in this project. The governance of this project. So we have institutions, water resource management agencies from the federal level, state level. You have other federal institutions. You have banks. You have research institutions like mine, Embrapa, universities, and we have the water sanitation company, the people that deals with the farmers directly from the government to bring the technologies to smallhold farmers, and the company that deals with the roads, with the dirty roads. So we are talking about and NGOs, local NGOs and international NGOs too, as you can see there, private sector, and so on. So working together, because before that project, everyone here tried to solve the problem in that basin, and it doesn't work. So only together we can deal with that. And we have different practices that we apply on that basin. So here you can see the terraces, the adjustment of this is we call barraginhas, the small check dams, something like this, close to the streets, to the dirty roads. Here the undulations in the dirty roads to put the water inside the crops and not running there and causing erosion and bringing sediments to the rivers and other products too. So there are so many things. It doesn't exist anymore because it lost a lot of water. It's an open channel, so we transform it. We put a pipe. Now we have pipes and we have reservoirs that doesn't have infiltration inside. So here we are talking about a lot of water that was reduced about 135 liters per second in a basin that produces about 800, and the water sanitation company depends on 300 liters per second to supply to 200,000 people. So it is a very important basin. It's not a big basin. It has only 300 square kilometers about that. So we deal with the system approach using IWRM solutions, green-gray infrastructure, sustainable farming practices, negotiated water allocation, payment for environmental services, country-city interactions, because before this project, people call the farmers as the villains, that's the bad guys. And they always fight between the water supply company and the farmers, each one blaming about the other one. And with that, the responsible for the payment for environmental services is the sanitation company. So it connects the sanitation company with the farmers, and today we don't need anymore the water resource agency, management agency in this basin, because they can just call each other and say, oh, you can close your channel now because I need water to supply 200,000 people. And the guys from the agricultural side, they say, oh, can you give me 2 hours more? And I will. Everybody will irrigate. Will make their irrigation, and then we can close it. But I need to open it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, 10 o'clock in the morning is okay. And you don't have to talk with the water agency. I was the director of the water agency, and I was very happy with that. That they don't need to call me to say I don't have water for anything here. And you organize the community in groups, in farmers, and it creates an environment there that puts everything in the right place. And of course, we deal a lot with knowledge exchange and education in this basin. I will not talk about that, but because I don't have time, only 5 minutes. But if you consider the results, because in the beginning people say, we are doing this project to improve water quantity and quality, but it's much, much, much more than this. you are talking about water governance. We are talking about people talking about water, discussing about water, and solving their problems in a table of negotiation and discussion and partnership. So that was really amazing. And how to put a price on that. It's much, much more than the improvements. And I can say, as a hydrologist, it is very difficult to show in a basin scale that with nature-based solutions, with things like that, the water quality and quantity is improving because of that. It's different. Each rain is different, and sometimes it's very complicated, and the accuracy of our methods to measure that, even we've improved a lot on this, it's very complicated. And it's not for other reason that we won the Water Changemaker Prize, yes, among 340 projects from 80 countries. So we reached the second place, and of course it's an honor for everybody. And I didn't mention the most important part of this project, the farmers. So thank you very much. And I'm here for this. I don't know if I took 5 minutes only.
It's perfect, perfect, George. I really liked also the slide with all the partners. I truly think that you created like truly a system and what we call like an enabling context and system to make sure that things truly happen. And that's really amazing and well done. I will move now. You will need to leave now? No, okay, because so we will move to, and I also think that then Ms. Sibano, you will also respond to what Jorge was saying about the farmers and what's the true role that farmers play being at the front lines of climate change. But I will move now to Ms. Caroline Chelsea Manyama. You are National Coordinator of the Africa Youth Initiative on Climate Change. And I also wanted to ask you, because we're also very aware of marginalized groups and making sure that these aligning these systems also bring true inclusivity and equity. So how are young female farmers and entrepreneurs developing solutions to strengthen water and food system resilience? And how can we better support them, support female entrepreneurs or female or women to champion integrated water resilience climate solutions?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. As the first question was, how can I have questions here? Young females farmers develop solutions, right?
Yeah, and how we can support them.
And how we can support them. I have an example from a rural community in Tanzania. It's in Bagamoyo. They have been championing agriculture and water resilience type of agriculture through the production of avocado oil. We have an avocado oil program. And they use water-resistant crops such as lemongrass as well. But they don't just use this as farming, but they use it as a business platform. We want to empower female entrepreneurs or female farmers to be business people, not only just for their home food, but to be able to cater to a community, to their community first, then to the nation. So there is the avocado oil program. What happens, sorry, I have to refer. What happens, we have empowered 25 youth in Njombe and Bagamoyo with the lemongrass, and Njombe with avocado oil program. And this is in support with AGRA and CARE Tanzania. What they do is turn avocado surplus and low-grade avocados in high-value oil for cooking and cosmetics. We all know how avocado use large amounts of water, but this innovation with the oil program, it helps prevent food and water from being wasted when fruit decays, by allowing farmers to transform a potential loss into a profitable and climate resilient product. That is one of the way we are helping farmers in Njombe and Bagamoyo. Also, when it comes to supporting, I talked in a previous session that there are only 3 challenges that these farmers face. One is financing, second is knowledge, third is market. Telling a farmer in a rural community to conventionally move from what they knew to a climate resilience or water resilience type of agriculture, it needs to change their mindset. That means they need more knowledge. And that is what they lack. They lack the knowledge and understanding on how to get into this methodology. And that's why we start with a small community. We have agriculture officers or farmers, they are from the government, who are to tell the farmers that this is a new way of doing things. But most of the time, these people are not reached by the designated personnel to actually do that. So we take it upon ourselves to help the farmers get that knowledge. But however, we might say we are capacitating, as we say, 25 youth. That's a smaller amount of youth that are in Tanzania, because we almost half of the population are youth. 25 than, let's say, 30 million people is a small number in a whole population. That's a very small sample. We need more energy. We need more support in giving the knowledge, in educating these people on water resilience type of agriculture or climate resilience type of agriculture. So one, support in knowledge. They need to get the knowledge. They need to get the education, the understanding. Second is finances. Yes, they can get the knowledge. Then how should they start? How should they go about? These people are not afraid to have a loan structure or a financial structure that can help them if the end product is them getting profit, is them changing their lives and the life of the community and the state of the community, but also in helping them to engage more. Third is the market, because they all have the product, but where do they sell them? It's another thing. And it's for example, avocado, apart from, that's why we went with the oil program, because that is not competitive as if we sell the avocado as its fruit itself. That's very competitive, because now we have a lot of farmers doing avocado farming. You get the point. So now there is the market access. And those are the 3 areas that they need support from. When it comes to knowledge, they also need technical support. I forgot that part, but it is within the knowledge part. So yeah, in my work with the community, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And I know you have to go because you're involved also in negotiations. I also wanted to highlight what you were saying. So it's finance, not putting a pressure on you, Jam, so finance, access to markets. So we'll hear more from you on finance then afterwards. So she was mentioning finance. Maybe you can know the headset. And also the knowledge, maybe it's also for them to better respond to the question that also Jorge was showing. And so what is this, what's the worth of this? So understand that this is truly like a decision that will bring them benefits in the longer run. So thank you so much for those remarks. I will now move to Ms. Diane Sibanda. Yeah, you can go. You can go first. If you need to go, I will move closer.
Okay.
I will read the question. If you have the question, you can just respond. Or do you want?
Thank you for inviting us, FAO, and thank you, World Farmer Organization, for amplifying our voices. Smallholder farmers are leading climate resilience through innovative practices locally. Giving an example, in Botswana, we do water harvesting, because as you know, Botswana is a very arid country. We really receive rains. So if we do, we have to use that opportunity of water harvesting. And local dams are done to capture whatever little water we have. In Malawi, our members do trees to improve soil fertility, and because in between they do the maize. In Zimbabwe, where the members grow sorghum, cowpeas, and millet, the farmers use climate resilience activities as well. Then in Kenya, women share seeds. They do locally, we call them the indigenous seeds, and they are tolerant to the climate change. So, and in Tanzania, we use compost to improve soil fertility and CA, CA conservation agriculture. So those are the activities that we use through our members in the South. And we have to realize that ISAF is mostly women, is predominantly women and the youth. So that's why we really need everybody's support in that contest, because women are leading that space. And through the traditional norms, women have always been left behind. Like we don't have collateral, we don't have land, we don't have anything. We always have to rely on our male colleagues. Then, coming to recognition, the smallholder farmers are recognized internationally. I'll answer that one. I'll say yes, but there's a but. We are not wholly recognized because at the international levels, the smallholder farmers are not given the opportunity in most cases. Even at the regional and even at the local level, the commercial farmers are the ones who are invited to this space. And we are lucky because we are a member of the regional platforms and the World Farmer Organization. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'll be sleeping somewhere in the village and not knowing what even copies and what's happening in the international platforms. So surely, we need a voice of the smallholder farmers to be in the space, considering that we are the majority. 80% in Africa are smallholder farmers. 80% are feeding the nation, and 80% are women. And women are very resilient. Women, they go all out because they are mothers, they are community builders. They do whatever they can do to feed the nation. When you empower the woman, you are empowering the community. So that's very vital to know that women have to be, women who are smallholder farmers have to be empowered. And what's needed? We need to include farmers in decision-making, smallholder farmers. Ensuring that their voices are amplified, their voices are heard. Increase direct funding, simplify grants, and reduce bureaucracy. Because most of the smallholder farmers, they need training and empowerment to be in the space of being commercial. And that's the problem that we are facing at the moment. Capacity building. We need to expand the extension services, which in most cases is very limited. so that they also train the smallholder farmers. And my takeaway point, support local, empower farmers, funding should be directed to the right people. Because if funding is, smallholder farmers tend to be the constituents of the politicians. Because then if funding is still going through the politicians, smallholder farmers will stay poor. Because we are no longer in that space of being the constituency of politicians. We want to be the, funded directly so that we are empowered, so that, we stand tall and know that, and add value to our constituencies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you also for bringing the concrete examples of the things that are the smallholder farmers that are part of the World Farmers Organizations are doing. It's always great to hear the voice of a farmer and also the role that women play and how resilient they are, truly how resilient they are. And also what's needed. So include the smallholder farmers in decision making and the direct funding directly to smallholder farmers. So thank you so much. And I think there were a lot of hints to financing. So we move now to Mr. Jahan Choudhury from IFAD. IFAD obviously plays a crucial role in financing climate resilience for smallholder farmers in rural areas. But the question is, how can we accelerate investments that link water management, smallholder resilience, and food systems transformation? And how can finance better support integrated water food solutions? And what incentives or policy levers are missing, but also maybe also responding to the question that Sibana was saying about direct funding, if you have one. A lot to unpack.
A lot. Thank you very much for inviting IFAD. We have 2 more days left, and by now I am really bored of hearing myself. So I'll do my best to make it a little more interesting. You asked about what policy reforms are actually needed. I'm going to start with the good news. And the good news, 1 hour ago, Canadian government declared approximately 263 million Canadian dollars for IFAD. And as you know, IFAD's main mandate is to support the small-scale farmers. So that's 263 million Canadian dollars going to the small-scale farmers, in addition to $1.6 billion that we program on a 3-year basis targeting the small-scale farmers. So the flow of financing is there. The question is this sufficient? And one point about the flow, over the last 5 days, I've been hearing a lot about we need to increase the flow, we need to increase the flow, we need to increase the flow. I think the quantity of finance is important, but let's not forget about the quality of the financing. The quality here means predictability. Can the beneficiaries actually predict when the financing is going to come? It's about whether we are using the climate finance for the right purpose and whether it is creating the impact that we want to actually see on the ground. So quantity is important, there's no doubt about it, but let's not forget the other side of the story, which is quality. Now, if you want to improve the quantity and quality, I think policy reforms are required at 3 different levels. The first one, in your question, you use few keywords, food system, agriculture, water. Although we want to see them in an integrated way, when it comes to the policy documents, they are not integrated. And I'll tell you why. We have the NDCs, we have the National Adaptation Plans, we have the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. So 3 different plans for 3 different topics. And it's very, very difficult for a country to adopt and implement 3 different plans separately, because these plans are never going to be implemented through these documents. They have to be reflected in the National Development Plan. They have to be reflected in the sectoral strategies. And eventually, they have to be reflected in district development plans and local development plans. Can you imagine the layer of complexity we are adding to the government systems and processes? So yes, it's easy to talk about food system, but to what extent we are making it easy for the government to actually implement this, not only from their policy perspective, but when it comes to projects on the ground. So I think that synergy is required. Synergy cannot be just in theory. It has to be reflected in the national development plans. The second reform is when it comes to the budget of a government. There is no food system budgeting. You can't go to a Ministry of Finance and say, hey, we want $50 million coming from your government revenue for food system. For them, it makes no sense. They can understand water, they can understand agriculture, they can understand energy, but food system, we don't even have it in a budget code. There is no international standardized system that talks about food system when you're planning and when you're executing and when you're reporting on a national budget. Yeah, so that's another layer of reform that we actually need. And finally, we are talking about food system and we are talking about financing. I have heard about blended financing a lot. Yeah, everybody's talking about private sector. Everybody's talking about blended financing. But there are some fundamental requirements for us to make this work. Do we actually have the pipeline? Yeah, so it's about building the pipeline. When we talk about adaptation, we are only talking about adaptation. When we talk about mitigation, where we only talk about mitigation. But is it possible for us to bundle this too, in order for us to demonstrate the co-benefits of food system? It's not just adaptation, it's mitigation as well. It's not just food security, it's also nutrition. Yeah? It's not only about what it means for the national export, it also means food sufficiency. So there are multiple co-benefits that are there. So when we are structuring a project, let's think about those co-benefits. And that is what we call building the pipeline. So it's the first B in the equation. The second is you want to invest, you want to welcome the private sector, but the private sector doesn't necessarily see the scale and the volume in the kind of pipelines that we are designing for the small scale farmers. And if you don't have the scale and volume, there is not going to be sufficient return. Yeah? And return is important. Think about us. We have invested our pension in where? In the private sector. They are the ones who are eventually investing it. We don't want to make a loss. Yeah? Nobody wants to make a loss. So it's important for them to also see the risk and return. So when you're structuring a project, to what extent it is possible for us to bundle not only themes, water, agriculture, security, but could we think about regional bundling? Could we think about district level bundling? In order for you to get the scale and the volume that we need in order to make blended financing work. So that brings me to the third part, blended financing. One thing that has really worked is the risk mitigation instruments. Yeah? One of the fundamental part of any blended financing mechanism would be that risk mitigation mechanism. So it could be first loss facility, it could be guarantee. But who is going to pay for that? Not the private sector. It has to be from the public sector, that you need to reduce the risk of investment for the private sector. So you can think about a stacked structure whereby the first layer is your first loss facility. Your second layer is the concessional financing. This is where IFAD also comes in, together with other multilateral banks, together with impact funds to the extent possible. And the third one is your private sector, who is going to be the senior partner in this. They are also going to be investing, but they can only invest once they see the first and second layer are in place. A good example that we have, and this is where I'm going to, a good example that we have is in East Africa. We have bundled 4 different countries, and we have come up with a project of 243 million US dollars. Out of that, 90 million is coming from GCF that has got concessional loan and that has got grant. We also mobilized some other financing from Nordic countries, and that basically established that first loss facility. Then some of our financing went to the subordinated loan, and then we brought Equity Bank, purely commercial bank from Kenya. They have brought 90 million US dollars. Why do you think they brought it? Because of the first loss facility that we had managed to structure. Yeah? And it's not only that. For the first time, we have a commercial bank in that particular region that is investing in adaptation. We talk about adaptation doesn't have an investment case. It does. Adaptation does have an investment case. And we actually have come up with a publication to demonstrate that, and it was launched on the 14th of November. So we now have a commercial bank that is investing in adaptation financing, and we are influencing the taxonomies, how they are structuring the loan products, how they're screening the loan products, how they're coming up with the taxonomies. So this is another example of how you can establish a blended financing mechanism. But let's not forget about building that pipeline and also bundling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jahan. And really insightful. I really like to hear what you're saying, by the way. So it's good that you came here and you shared with us your thoughts about the quantity and the quality of investment, how we de-risk investment, how we make sure that private sector is willing to be part of these projects, and how we move from a project base to more of a program mission. Is it regionally? Is it not regionally? But how we see things with a bigger scale. And so those are very insightful also recommendations for us. So I will ask you for a round of applause for our panel. I will thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your insights. I don't think we will have time for questions, but it was very, very interesting to hear to you, because we move now. So the idea of this event is from sharing some concrete examples and then moving to more of the policy side. And you also touched this, Jahan, is also how we find coherence and harmony across the levels. Is it like horizontal and also vertical, from national to subnational, so making sure that things then happen on the ground. And so I will now move to the second panel. I don't know if we can move to the second panel. Yes, correct. So we have, I would call the speakers on stage. So from FAO, Maya Tagaki, Regional Program Leader, FAO Regional Offices for Latin America and the Caribbean. Rogito Jeremia from AGRA. Unfortunately, Pauline couldn't be with us. And Roberta Makoko, NDC Coordinator from the Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining from Malawi. Thank you so much for being here. It's raining again. It will be accompanying us. So I will start with you, Amaya Takagi. And I also I wanted to ask you what governance mechanisms, and this is touching what we were saying just now, so it's a perfect segue to this second panel. So such as interministerial coordination, cross-sector platforms or financing instruments are needed to strengthen integration, making sure that things happen in a systematic way. And how is FAO supporting countries to overcome this fragmentation?
Thank you so much for the invitation. I hope you can hear me despite the sound of our theme of our session. Yeah, as FAO, it's really a pleasure to be in this panel to raise awareness of the importance of water for agri-food systems. As our director of Land and Water Division in Rome had said, we are facing already 1.2 billion people, the risk of droughts, 1.8 billion people in risks of floods. And by 2050, half of the population will be facing at least 1 month of problem of access to water. This is the prediction, let's say. We hope it doesn't happen. On the other hand, by 2050, we are doubling the population, and we also need to double the production. It means we will need to continue relying on the competition between water, energy, and natural resources. So we need really to change the way we use water in agriculture and industrial sectors, and all sectors, not only in agriculture. But I want to raise awareness on agriculture because it's one of the most, the sector that most consume water. On the other hand, is the sector which faces much more stronger the effects of climate change because it affects directly the livelihoods of the farmers. No? But at least what I found, what FAO is proposing as areas of action to promote more cooperation or coordination. First is promoting coherence, and this is what we are doing here now, with the countries between climate, water, agriculture, biodiversity, and land degradation policies. We have those at least 5 platforms running with different commitments. We have the NDCs, we have the NAPs, we have the NBSAs, which is the National Biodiversity Strategies, and national desertification plans, all related to COPs. So it's important that the countries can see the complementary roles of each of those commitments, and that water is in the center of all of them, that agriculture and food systems are in the center of them due to the effect that I mentioned before. The second is the coherence and cooperation between ministries of agriculture and ministries of environment. In some countries we see this cooperation, this alignment, but in most hard to have this dialogue. So at least FAO here at COP, we are promoting our platform for Latin American Caribbean platform for agriculture, for climate action on agriculture, PLACA, which is exactly a space for dialogue between countries and ministries from different areas to raise awareness on the role of agriculture in climate change adaptation and mitigation. We already have 18 countries participating on these platforms to promote knowledge sharing, like what we are doing here, technology mapping, identification, and also sharing, and capacity development. So this is one of the examples that I want to give. The second is evidence-based frameworks for integration. We need evidence, like using of data, combining Earth observation, statistics, and indicators to help countries plan and implement those natural resources management, so that they will know from which point they are in the management of natural resources to where they want to go and how to monitor the progress. And for this, we need timely data and information, and this needs to be collected not only at national level, but at farmer level for better use of this important resource of water. Third, bring solutions to the ground. We saw excellent example of the solutions. We have solutions. It needs to be scaled up. Another important example from Brazil that we are here is also the rainwater harvesting that we see pouring, but we know in the northeast of Brazil, we have some months with rain and 9 months of drought. So you can storage this rainwater to be used during the drought season. And this technology of rainwater harvesting, storage, and using for consumption and production is already being exported, let's say, promoted in the region, in the Central America, in South America, in the Caribbean, and it's a cheap and very efficient solution. And finally, I won't talk about financing because my colleague said already, but we need financing to scale up those important solutions. But we need to increase the awareness of the agri-food sector to climate change and climate adaptation, because today the data that FAO has is that only 4% of the financing in climate change goes to agriculture. So those are the elements that we need to change. So we are here at COP with the countries, with the negotiator. It's an important role that each of us have to promote this, to increase the level of our awareness on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tagaji. And thank you also for bringing the competition across sectors, which is obviously from the water sector that's happening. Somehow we adopt a nexus approach, but not only nationally, but also internationally across the multilateral environmental agreements, the Rio Trio, and also the documents that countries have to prepare, and also when they implement them, that they are not so fragmented, so that we we assess what are what is the interest and the benefits of a coherent approach. And thank you also for sharing some of the examples of what FAO is doing. I will now move to Brigitte Jeremiah from AGRA. And thank you for being here. I wanted also to, if you could share an example of where integrating water, land, and soil management, and we work a lot on soil. We don't talk about soil that much, and we should be talking about it more, because it is also something that brings, coherence, land management and soil management. Something when it comes to agriculture and water retention is truly crucial. How integrating water, land, and soil management within agriculture has strengthened climate resilience for farming communities, if you have an example of that, and how, I know you're also a young professional, so how can youth voices and young agricultural innovators be more effectively embedded in governance and policy processes? The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question, and very many great thanks to the Water Pavilion for organizing this event, and the International Water Management Institute, and for inviting AGRA to participate in this session. In 2006, Kofi Annan, then UN Secretary General, founded AGRA, and it was very clear in his mind what he wanted AGRA to do. He wanted AGRA to drive a uniquely African green revolution. And in his head, in his mind that time, it was very clear that how this uniquely African green revolution that needed to be unique to the African continent, how it should have been driven at that time. It was very clear in his mind that that governments needed to have a clear direction in terms of the policies and the strategies they employ in various sectors of agriculture. But also it was very clear in his mind and heart that Africa needed to really rethink in terms of how they utilize their waters, and also in terms of how they utilize their soil. Basically in terms of water and soil conservation, it was very clear in his mind would have been a great driver in terms of how a uniquely African green revolution will be driven. But one other thing that was really clear in his mind was issues around making sure that we take cognizance of the fact of the uniquely African biodiversity, but also at that time also very clear on his mind on the need to be able to build the capacity and also ensure that we engage all sectors, including men and women. I cannot overemphasize the importance of water to be preaching to the choir. And I did my PhD in a Christian institution, and one of the things they taught me is how to preach, but they told me that I should not preach to the choir, let alone preach to the pop or preachers. Yeah, but you all appreciate the importance of water, and particularly soils and intersection. But I want to draw lessons from one initiative that we've been running in Kenya as AGRA, and we call this initiative the Laikipia Isiolo Samburu Transforming the Environment Through Nexus. And in this particular program, we were mainly focusing on the intersection between water, energy, food, and looking at how they all intersect together with the soils, amongst other things. And this was a very unique landscape, because if you understand the geography of that particular part of the world, it's a heavily arid and semi-arid area. So already we are facing real challenges of soil health in that particular area. But you increase that challenge if you have lack of access to water if it's in an arid and semi-arid area. But when we employ a very widespread of measures in terms of how we harvest the water, how we harness it, and how we build the capacity of the soil to be able to retain that particular water, it becomes critically important. but looking into the future, ensuring that also that we continue to engage the young people who are going to live here longer, and also ensuring that they are actively involved in these particular initiatives and practices and sustain them over time to ensure that we're able to rehabilitate our soils, but also making sure that we're able to effectively utilize the water that we have. Allow me pause here for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you for sharing also the history of Agra and also the project and how to bring in more the youth voices in also the processes. So our last speaker, we made it, last but not least, is Roberta Makoko. She's an NDC coordinator at Malawi's Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy and Mining. And my question is more on the, and it was also touched upon by IFAD before, by FAO during this panel earlier, is how, but going more into detail of what are the reporting mechanisms the country need to submit to the Secretariat and to these processes. How well are water food linkages reflected to the NDCs and NAPs or other reporting mechanisms, if you have insights on that as well? The FAO was mentioning that, NBSAPs and LDNs. And is the link between water and food systems adequately recognized across the Paris Agreement in your view? And if not, what are the improvements that need to be done?
Thanks very much for the invitation. I'm Roberta Makoko from the Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining. I'm stuttering on the name of the ministry we just recently changed. So I'll firstly speak on the embedment or the inclusion of water and food systems in the Paris Agreement. We know that the Paris Agreement doesn't explicitly name water or food systems in dedicated articles of the Paris Agreement, but it strongly embeds them in its core objectives, which is mitigation, adaptation, but also resilience building. And the way that it appears in there is through Article 7, which is adaptation, but also Article 4, which touches on mitigation. And it is through the Article 7 on adaptation that the Paris Agreement strongly highlights the importance of protecting people, livelihoods, but also ecosystems, as well as strengthening resilience to climate impacts. And it is also through the same Article 7 that the Paris Agreement stipulates on the development of national adaptation plans. And let me mention that Malawi adheres to this mandatory development of the NAPs, and I'll touch on that more later. And through the Article 4 of the Paris Agreement, it also talks about food systems as well as resilient water systems through even development of nationally determined contributions, the NDCs. And it is through this article that the Paris Agreement highlights issues on climate-smart agriculture, sustainable land and water management, but also reduced deforestation related to food production, which again touches on management of biodiversity systems. And now coming down to the national context for Malawi, but also reflecting on implementation of the Paris Agreement, as well as reporting the reporting of the implementation of the NDCs and of the NAPs. So implementation pathways of the Paris Agreement, I already mentioned that mostly it is through the development and implementation of NAPs and NDCs. And the way that Malawi has done this is that we've recently updated our NDC. Now we have a draft NDC 3.0 as well as a draft NAP. And I should mention that resilient water but also food systems are well embedded in there, and there's that linkage. And to our advantage, I mentioned that we recently had a change in administration, and with that change we now have the Ministry of Agriculture combined with the Ministry of Water Resources, and so that works to our advantage because issues to do with agriculture and water are now in one ministry. And this helps us even with development of indicators as well as their implementation, measurement, and reporting of these indicators. And also the NDCs and the NAPs have very much highlighted the importance of interlinking food systems as well as resilient water systems in a way that indicators in the agriculture sector are also touching on water, but also across climate resilience and biodiversity management. However, as a challenge for Malawi, I should mention that when it comes to food systems, the indicators are not all well integrated. So we have others in the agriculture sector, but others are appearing in the health sector, especially if you touch on issues to do with nutrition. So nutrition is under the health sector, which is a totally, separate sector, and issues to do with food security are in the agriculture sector, which for now is an advantage because the two ministries are now one; they're combined. And also, as a challenge with the Paris Agreement implementation, specifically for Malawi, is that of financing. We've got funding or financing mechanisms inbuilt in the Paris Agreement, that is the GCF, the GEF, which Malawi has benefited from. However, the funding mechanisms are lengthy. It takes a long time for you to actually see a project on the ground because you spend most of the time with readiness programs, development of PIFs, and development of the proposal documents. It takes a long time, but eventually it comes. But we would want something faster so that we can realize the targets in our NDCs as well as the NAPs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberta. And it's very interesting then to go into the country and go nationally and understand what's happening at the national level. I also hear what you're saying about indicators nationally, how they're managed. We know here there are a lot of talks. One of the major open negotiation track is around the global ground adaptation, how indicators, and even there, the cross synergies are not so evident, and there's still discussions around those cross synergies and how water will be also featured in the other targets, thematic targets and dimensional ones. So thank you so much. I don't think we will have time for questions, but if the speakers will be here, you're very welcome to approach them and ask them questions. I would ask you a round of applause to the speakers of the second panel. I thank you very much personally. And we will now move to the closing. Yeah. So for the closing, we will have like an energizing. We're gonna do like a shock. So we had, I think, Jem Young. Is that correct? Is that the name? Yeah. That has been listening and has prepared an impro rap session on what we have shared, and is able to perform now.
Hey everybody, you're still around, you're still alive. I know it was been a long week, so I'm here to just add some musical value to everything that you guys said. So to reiterate, what she just said, is the last hour I've been taking notes on everyone's conversation, and I've been making a song out of it. So this is the first time it's going to be performed, probably the last time it's going to be performed, and it's just for you guys. So I represent a company called the Vent Rap, and that's what we're going to vibe out to for today. So let's make this day good. Put your hands up one time if you want to save the world one time. I said put your hands up one time if you want to save the world one time. Yeah, okay. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I go by the name Jam Young and I'm here for you. Can we talk about climate change? No, it won't fix what remains? Need sustainable water lanes. Can we talk about climate change? How food won't be the same if water management doesn't change? Need new system and water lanes. Can we talk about agriculture takes 70% of fresh water withdrawals? Without integrated systems, we could lose it all. Need sustainable water for crazy rainfall and other climate changes affect us in the long haul. Crisis is coming, it's here like the thunder. If we don't work together, 2050 will be under. Water from lack of water, no Fiji or Mars. About to fall out of our seat like Karen Ross. Need to look at California and Denmark. Diversifying water sources, set goals and start. Recharge of groundwater bases for conversation. Need a plan for better opportunities for conversation. Realize this is more than environmental challenge. It's a human one, and we need more balance. If we join together, then it'll get harder. So banded together seems clearer than water. We need climate change. Otherwise it won't be the same. If we don't fix what remains, need sustainable water lanes. If we talk about climate change, how food won't be the same. If water management doesn't change, need a system in the water lanes. Can we talk about need community working on policy? Starts with you and me as left on lead. Logically, if water lows in the food supply, and that can project before our miles are dry. To policy makers, it'll make the future harder. Word of George Wordneck, you can't forget the farmers. Be nice to find areas if you believe in karma. Access the market, word of Carolina and Yama. Diane Savannah from Botswana says we need more farmers on the panel with more women. Not only are they brilliant, but they also resilient. With everyone support this initiative will crumble. So we need to hire people like this is Colombo. While figuring out quality and quantity in dollars. Like Canada spending $263 billion. That's not a theory, that's real synergy. Need more reform, right? The John Chowdhury. So put your hands to the sky. If you feel climate change, and stay alive. Future climate change. No, it won't be the same if we don't fix what remains. Need sustainable water lanes. Can we talk about climate change? How the food won't be the same if water management doesn't change. Need new system and water lanes. Cause nutrition is the mission. Building the pipelines, lifestyle now, and create more overtime. To decrease all water stress. Need to release more water stress. Shout out FAO, show the way to Mr. Miyagi. Wax online, now you love it, flying up to Kagi. Creating spaces for Latin America, Caribbean. Should we get expanded to where it's some water issues again? Including soil from China to Africa. Activating all sectors like Romeo, Jeremiah. World slowly burning the planets on fire. Water for privacy and concern and science. Can't strip this issues as long like a yo-yo. Imagine a forest with no rainwater, that's a no-go. Everybody put your hands up if you know we need water resilience as Roberta McCongo. Wanna change, cause you know it won't be the same if you don't fix what remains. Need sustainable water lanes. Can we talk about climate change? How food won't be the same if water management doesn't change. Need new system and water lanes. I said when I say climate, y'all say change. Climate. And when I say we need more, y'all say water. Need more. That's my time, y'all. I go by the name of Jim Young, like I said. I'm a vet rap. I got my partners, Dama Brinkman, and Dex McBee doing this for the next couple of hours and tomorrow. So thank you guys for having us. If you have any videos or clips, photos, whatever you got, please send them to my boss right there so we can make a cool video for you guys. Put it on LinkedIn. So thank you guys for having us.